I'm RACER's Marshall Pruett. We are here on a sun-kissed Thursday morning, 6 hours of IndyCar practice on the way. Gonna get into a couple of tech items here, insider items here, the stuff that I love. As a former race car mechanic and engineer, one of the things which I've really loved observing is I've seen more fans than ever, at least in a long time, really looking forward to watching, hearing, and observing IndyCars being warmed up. Bodywork off, look at the engines, take photos and videos of everything there that make these creatures so amazing. So happy to see the response and interest from fans, first of all. But here we have Arrow McLaren wheeling out one of their cars to warm up, and there's a very specific process teams go through, so let's talk about that a little bit. First thing you'll notice is the motor being bumped. That's to build oil pressure. Ignition's turned off. You'll have the person with the starter usually bump the motor 2, 3, 4 times. That's to get oil pressure. Get all the oil circulating throughout the motor so when it does come time to fire, it's properly lubricated, ready to go. So we have the bumping process, then the ignition will get turned on, the motor will be fired. Sit there and idle. This whole process here, after being in the garage using a nice little contained unit that plugs in, circulates water, heats the water system here, the radiators, the cooling system, brings the temperature of the motor up. Everything gets warm, metals start to expand a little bit into the proper areas they should be. Then we go through the actual firing the motor up warming process, and so it's just letting it idle. Some folks, crew chief here, happens to like to blip the motor, rev the motor up. I love it. I don't know if it actually warms it up faster. When I was a chief mechanic, I'd rev the motor while warming, believing that it made it warm up faster. In reality, I just loved the sound. So regardless, that's a pretty normal thing. Folks will either just let it sit and idle and come all the way up to race temperature, or rev the motor, just put on a little bit of a show. Another item here, which is also pretty standard, is gear ratio changes are happening all the time here. Wind direction changes, the amount of wind, just there's a lot of things that can change how the cars can get down the straight. So you get gear ratio changes happening all the time. Well, while warming up the motor, especially after a gear change, crew chiefs will lean in, flick the flappy paddles on the backside of the steering wheel and run the car through the gears. It's just a confirmation that everything's working properly. I've made mistakes before doing gear ratio changes, and this is just something, it's not that you distrust your gearbox specialist, but you do this to make sure everything operates perfectly. You want your driver to climb in without any questions that everything is done right. So this is normal. Also with GCUs, gearbox control units, running through the gears, spinning things up, just lets it learn. It's smart, it's always trying to figure out wheel speeds and correlating stuff, so helps there as well. Could do some changes to the cooling as well, adding some shutters to the back side of the radiators, block those off a little bit, and then rev the thing up a little bit more and shut it down. So you see this happening all day, every day when teams are getting ready to go out. If you get a chance, if you're here, if you're in Gasoline Alley or any future IndyCar races, just take a listen. You hear the motor starting to warm up, hour, 45 minutes before a session. Go take a look. It's a cool process. Every team does things a little bit differently. Chevy and Honda ask for different things to be done, but it's a cool thing, just part of our tradition here of getting ready to go racing, go practicing, go qualifying the Indy 500.